continuing our discussion on when Torah and science collide, does Jewish law change? So with the different examples given, so we'll start off with the Gemara in Shabbos. The Gemara in Shabbos tells us the following halacha. We know one of the 39 prohibited activities is shchita, is killing, the tilas neshama. You can't kill a human even during the week. And obviously, even if someone's liable to capital punishment, you don't do it on Shabbos, but you don't kill humans anytime. But animals you can kill during the week, but you can't kill on Shabbos. You shoche behema, you violate the biblical prohibition of the tilas neshama, of taking a soul. So the question is, so if you kill an animal on Shabbos, you chayev. So the Gemara tells us in Shabbos, very interesting halacha. If you kill a kina, a lice, you kill lice on Shabbos. Yeah, it's mutter to kill kina. You do not violate the prohibition of the tilas neshama. The Gemara says, why? What's the difference? Why if you kill an animal, you chayev in the tilas neshama, but if you kill lice, you're not? So the Gemara answers because lice, I'm sure the clinical term is, they come from schmutz, they come from dirt, they come out of nowhere, basically spontaneous generation. They don't come from a mommy, they don't reproduce. Edo paro raba. So Gemara says you can kill lice on Shabbos because they're totally different than animals. The only animals prohibited are those that are reproduced. But something that comes out of dirt or schmutz, so therefore it's mutter.
It's like fish that lay eggs?
No, if you lay eggs, we're saying that eggs is something else. No, the Gemara is saying lice don't come from eggs. It's spontaneous generation.
Okay. That's
the Gemara. So the question is, as we're bothered by it now, we know today science disproves spontaneous generation. In fact, there was Louis, I forget his name at the moment. It'll come back to me, but he did. It basically started from the 17th century, 18th, and finally in the 19th century. Louis Pasteur, I think his name was. He finally disproved spontaneous generation. This belief in science that things come out of inanimate matter. They realized it wasn't true. Of course, everyone reproduces. So that was a big issue then. So what do we do with the Gemara then? What do we do with the halacha? The halacha says you're allowed to kill lice on Shabbos because they come from schmutz, they come from dirt. There's no prohibition. That in medical science has proven otherwise. That there's no such thing as spontaneous, and it's accepted by all that it's not true. So what happens? Are you still allowed to kill lice on Shabbos? Does the halacha change? Is interesting. So when Louis Pasteur came out and proved it, so the communists they're pro-spontaneous because they're atheists, they don't believe in God. So therefore they wanted, so for money you could do anything. So they hired their own scientists and they proved that no, spontaneous generation does exist. So this is the way Rav Shechter tells over the story. His teacher was Rav Shmuel Soloveitchik, was the Rav Soloveitchik's brother. He says, when the Russians came out with the test that there is spontaneous generation, so some rabbis were dancing in the street. Now we can save the Rambam. The Rambam says anyone knows anything about science knows spontaneous generation is true, and that's why you can kill lice. And so he said, what a joke! These people don't believe in God. You're going to trust them. The whole test was a joke. Everyone agrees. Anyone serious in the medical field knows spontaneous generation doesn't exist. So how does halacha deal with this then? If medical science today says that there's no such thing as spontaneous generation, and the Gemara seems to be basing the halacha on the reason why you're allowed to kill lice on Shabbos is because they are spontaneous generated. What happened? So we'll see there'll be different approaches. So one, where the Pachad Yitzchak, where Isaac Loprente, he wrote, you're right. Now that we know that lice grow, they have a mommy and daddy, they come from an egg, so it's no longer permitted to kill lice. In other words, the Gemara was based on the understanding of the science of its time. The scientists themselves said it, that thought spontaneous generation. Now that we know it's not true, so we changed the halacha in the discussion. That's what some say. However, that's a minority view. Not minority view that we changed the halacha, not that the halacha can't. So there's different options. One option is like Rabbi Isaac Plenty said, that's it. It's usher. Many mothers and parents like the fact you can kill lice on Shabbos, because there are other issues with the hair, but people like it. So many others say no. The halacha stands, but if the halacha stands, you got to explain it then. So we can also answer based, let's say Reb Deskler has an approach, not by here, but I'll tell you what he says, and then we can tie it into here. That the Gemara in Chulin talks about a drusa, animal that's attacked by a wildcat. It wasn't clear why, but during the time of the Gemara, I guess, if a wildcat caught you, you basically die within 12 months. You were called a treifa. A treifa means someone's going to die within 12 months. So, and what was the reason? They thought at the time of the Gemara, you know why? Because the wildcat must secrete venom, and the venom goes in the poison. That's what they thought then. But now, hundreds of years later, more, now we see it's not true. Wildcats don't have venom. So therefore, Rav Deskler says like this. Again, you have to know specific cases. He says that by a drusa, you have to know what it applies to, what it doesn't. He says, no, when the Gemara says the halacha, it's based on a tradition. They have a tradition, they know that a drusa, that anyone caught by a wildcat, anyone caught by a wildcat died. They saw that. So the question is, why? So you always look to medical science to find out why. So at the time of the Gemara, they thought, okay, so the answer is not that the halacha is true. Halacha is based on Kabbalah. So now let's go back to our scientists and tell them to give me another reason. So you go back to the science of your time, and they came up with another reason. You know why it is? Because the wildcat caused more deep than the other animals, and the dirt gets in and it causes infection. So according to Rav Dessler's approach, you're preserving the halacha, but at the same time you're respecting medical science. And basically you're saying is, according to the first approach, you're saying they only knew. According to the first approach, you're saying the halacha is purely based on this medical science. There was no tradition about lice in the Gemara. They were just basing it on the fact that what did the rabbis say? They spoke to the scientists of the day, and therefore there wasn't any tradition on pi halacha, and therefore according to the first approach, that's it. Once we see it's wrong, so we throw it out the window and we move on. This approach is saying no. When the Gemara gives halacha, it's not just speaking. It's a tradition to have this as the halacha. Now we want to know what medical science, and we want science and Torah to be in harmony. So therefore we come to this. So that's the second approach.
What's the purpose of the science anyway? Is the science just so that because we have a desire to know the explanation of things?
Do you want to be on kosher too? We can discuss it.
So is the purpose of the science so because we have a desire to know things, so to give an explanation for human satisfaction. So if that changes, then fine. Like it's not you don't need those explanations necessarily for the halakha to still be true, right? It's just for us.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that is right. As we'll get into, that depends on, and again, it's not going to be a blanket rule, but the issue would be is if it's just based on the scientists at the time, and now we see the wrong thing, so we discard the halacha.
Right.
If it's that's the way the first approach is. The second approach is no, the halacha even about lice, we had a tradition that it's true.
Right.
And of course, we always try to figure it out. We want to know the science. A lot of halachas of it, and therefore we try to figure out. That's the second. A third approach, Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, he has a third approach, a different approach that as follows. In fact, this week's parsha, Parsha Shmini, we talked about the laws of kashrus, what's permitted, what's prohibited. So one of the things brought down is it's usher to eat bugs. Not that we need the Torah telling us, but the chiddush is a biblical prohibition to eat bugs. Because why is that a chiddush? Because normally something which isn't roi la'achila, something which isn't fit for consumption, isn't biblically prohibited. But the chiddush is, even though you can't eat bugs, nevertheless the Torah says so. So right now as I'm talking, I'm probably swallowing hundreds of microscopic bugs as we talk. And you are probably also. So every second I'm over a biblical prohibition of bugs. How could it be? So obviously no. When the Torah tells us we can't eat bugs, it's talking about bugs I can see with the naked eye. I'm not obligated to go around with a microscope or some scientific instrument to go look and see in a lab if there are bugs here. In other words, for instance, like Rav Moshe has halacha by nida. Let's say a woman sees red, she's a nida, she's tamei, but if it's not red, she's still Torah, depending on when we're looking. So let's say certain times a woman sees a spot, she does a bedika cloth, and you have to check the color. So the shaila was, let's say I can't tell it's red by looking, but if I take out my microscope, I see red. Mm-hmm. So Rav Moshe writes, no, it's not an issue. I'm not mechuyev to take out whatever I can spray, depending on what the case is. But if I can't see it red with my naked eye, then we don't view it red. The Torah wasn't given to angels; it was given to human beings, and God knows what it was given to. So as long as with glasses are considered your eyes. I'm saying, but I don't have to use any special instruments to look. Or similarly, someone came to Rav Shachter and showed him a pair of tefillin and said, are they square? Because the halachas have to be square. So he takes a look. Yeah, they look square to me. The guy says, no, they're not square at all. I'm a dentist. I deal with fillings all the time. These aren't square. So he said, we don't have to worry about it. Your eyes are like an instrument. The normal person is square. The fact that you have an expertise in this, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
You go by a normal person who can see it. So there's a general rule like that. So you go by what the same thing by bugs. It's only prohibited if I can see it. So of course, you could get into a dispute what's considered seeing it. In other words, let's say I have a black spot on my lettuce. So if it's moving around this black spot, even though I can't see wings, eyes, and nose, or whatever they have, it's obviously a bug. So I can't say, well, let me close my eyes and eat the lettuce. No, that doesn't do anything. It has to be invisible, not that because I'm not looking. So therefore, if there's a black spot moving, it's a bug. You have to get the bug off. Let's say it's just a black spot not moving. So then you can have a machlokus among the achronim. Is that considered seeing or not? So that's not our share tonight, but then we can get into that issue. So if Shlomo Zalman says this is the pshat here. The Gemara says a whole rekina b'Shabbos is you're allowed to. And it seems to be, the Rambam is saying it's based on spontaneous generation. And the Gemara seems to be saying, and now we know it's not. So Shlomo says, no, that's not the pshat. Chazal knew it wasn't, they knew there wasn't spontaneous generation. They knew that everything, this part is saying that Chazal knew more than the science at the time. But, as the saying is, or even if they did know, even if they did think that, but, Chazal aren't saying, so Chazal is saying you're allowed to kill these lice. Why? So they say because Eidol Para Rabba, they don't reproduce. They took it to mean the Gemara, people in the Rambam, that it was spontaneous generation. So Rav Shlomo Zalman says that's not the pshat in the Gemara. It just means that since these eggs were, of course there were eggs in the mice, but they were so tiny, the human eye couldn't see them. So Chazal are telling us, of course we know lice that reproduce like any other animal. The reason why you're allowed to kill them on Shabbos is because al pi halacha, we view it as spontaneous generation. We view these bugs, it's that the bugs are there, but I don't have to worry about these bugs right now. So therefore, so for instance, to remind you of another halacha, the Gemara talks about what bracha you make on a mushroom. So we make a shahako on a mushroom. Why shahako? Comes from the ground. Why not about boer piyadama? The Gemara says because it gets its nourishment from its ear, from the ear around and not from the ground. So I'm sure some scientists will come and say, no, it does get it, and I have people who said, no, it gets its nourishment from the ground. I said, no, kasha. No, so I'm saying is no. Chazal knew, but obviously that type of nourishment, al pi halacha, we don't recognize. Obviously, it gets some from the ground, some from the ear. When the Chazal are telling us, you make a shahako on mushrooms, it's the halachic reality. That's not significant in terms of halacha, but physically, I agree with you. The facts, I know it grows out of the ground. Of course, it's getting, but that's the pshat. Al pi halacha, we don't consider that. So we go, there's a physical reality, and there's many times the halachic reality and the physical will be the same. But here we think the halachic reality is telling me different, and therefore that's what Rav Shlomo Zalman, that's what the Gemara is telling me. It's not a kasha. They never. It's not spontaneous generation. Chazal saying lice are so small that you can't see the egg. We view it as ke'eno para rabba, but not that they do, and therefore, according to this pshat, we're saying is perhaps they knew before. I mean, even if they didn't know, is what this is saying is preserving the halacha. The halacha is staying the same, and so again, so we had three approaches so far. We had the first approach that basically the halacha is based on, they asked the doctors of the time, they asked the scientists of that time, who believed in spontaneous generation. Now that we find out that spontaneous, so therefore the halacha was only, the halacha is eternal, but it's based on a certain reality. If you tell me the reality is different, so then the halacha doesn't change. The halacha says if you kill an animal on Shabbos, you're chayev. If you kill something which isn't considered that it was recreated, because a cow comes from a cow, so then it's mutter. That halacha doesn't change. Okay, so now it's just a matter of plugging in. Okay, now that I know spontaneous generation isn't, so they were wrong then. But that's what they was based on. The question is, that gets into, could you say they were wrong or not? So according to this approach, yeah, they were wrong. And I'm not saying wrong is so bad. It depends what you mean by that wrong. We have Newton, we have Einstein. If everyone thought, they spoke to the scientists, they thought, I'm not saying it's a negative, but I'm saying is they were wrong, and therefore Rav Dess was saying, no, the halacha is based on a tradition. The halacha is not changing. It's our job, okay, let's get with it. Get medical science to find out what the pshat in the Gemara is, but the halacha is not changing. And the Shlomo Zalman, I guess somewhere in between, he's just saying is, no, you have to know pshat in the Gemara. It's not, they said it was, I guess I'll say the Rambam on that, or I don't know if you have to say about the Rambam or not, but the Gemara, that's what the Gemara meant. When the Gemara had said, when the Gemara seemed to be saying spontaneous generation, didn't necessarily mean, it means al pi halacha we view it as spontaneous, because it's something, just like we have the halacha by bugs. I'm eating bugs right now, no one's saying they're not bugs. Well, I'm saying halacha says we treat them not like bugs. Physically they're bugs. The same thing here, that's what Shlomo Zalman's approach. So that's just one example of the halacha of lice. There are many other cases we're going to have to go into. We're going to get into the issue of, this gives you some future attractions. Let's say we're going to discuss the case by Mila, about the case of mitzitza. Here you have a case where the Gemara says doing mitzitza is a health issue, and here perhaps we'll argue today doing mitzitza is causing danger to the child. That's mitzitza b'peh. We'll have to discuss that. I'll give an example of something that everyone agrees to. It's a pure, like there's halacha that before Bizman HaMishnah Gemara you have to wash a katan. Before and after the meal, for health issues, you wash them in hot water. And not only that, you were on Shabbos you did it. You were machal Shabbos for it. Even if you needed the water on Shabbos, it was considered. If you didn't do it, it was a suffix sakana. So the Beis Yosef writes in the 1500s, which I don't know, it's a lot different than us today. I don't know how different than the Gemara. Today we see we no longer have to do it. We have septics, antiseptics, we have antibiotics. We don't need that. And therefore, we no longer wash the katan. We don't even do it during the week. So we see Bizman Gemara, they used to machal Shabbos to water. So clearly that halacha seems to be, that's a pure scientific medical fact. So if we can assert that, again, the devil could be in the detail. But that seems to be, everyone seems to agree, we don't do it anymore. So it seems to be clear if the rabbi told us to do something purely based on the science of that day, and that's not true anymore, so we don't do it anymore. That's what Rabbi Isaac Lopendi seems to be saying by the lice. He seems to say that was a pure scientific thing. The halacha of killing the lice was, again, that's what I'm saying is, you have to know what in the words.
Could there be like another halacha that trumps it, that you're actually following, like if there's a health concern, but then you're like almost like that, like it's like
no, absolutely no. I'm saying like, what do you mean? Like,
so there's a health concern, then the ultimate halakha is maintaining health.
No, it is. No, that's what we're saying is 100%. So it's clear. But in the case of washing the child, it was a pure health issue.
Yeah.
And now that we have a better healthy way, there's no rewrite. Exactly. I'm saying, but what I'm saying is, but by the lice case, I'm saying that's what the first opinions. Again, I'm just thinking aloud about this. The first opinion seems to be saying that he's saying it was purely based on science, spontaneous generation. Now that it's not true anymore, you can't do it anymore. As opposed to the second and third approaches, at least the Rebbe's approach is saying that it's not. Killing lice is definitely a tradition. You're allowed to. Now the only question is why it's okay, not if it's okay. Mm-hmm. And Rav Shlomo Zalman, he's explaining the Gemara, but you could say Rav Shlomo Zalman's agreeing with number one, that if I didn't come up with a reason why to explain the Gemara differently, so then if the science changes, then halakha changes. I'm saying like the question of Shlomo Zalman, you could learn it either way, but he could fit in with them. I'm saying you have to know the devil's in the detail. I might fundamentally agree with you that if it's based only on science, you change it, but we can argue, is that halacha only based on, so that's you're going to have a major, because according to some Achronim, everything, there's no such thing as a pure science halacha. But then, they'll have to answer up what about washing the katan today? So I'm saying, I think everyone has to agree to certain things, and then we'll get to mitzitza, that's going to be a big issue. And perhaps we'll have to get into the meat and fish issue. So we'll have to get into many examples where the halakha, the Gemara says something is dangerous, and medical science says it's not. So we just basically dealt with the lice issue today, but we had a couple of interesting approaches how to deal with it. Again, to summarize, the Gemara says you can kill lice on Shabbos, pashtus because of spontaneous generation. We know there is no spontaneous generation, so A1 saying, okay, then get rid of the halacha. You can't kill lice anymore. A3, Rav Detzel saying, no, the halacha is never changing. You can always kill lice, we just have to come up with a different reason why, what the Gemara means. So therefore, Rav Deska could agree with Rav Shlomo Zalman and say that's what the Gemara meant here. That, you know what I'm saying, like, but according to Rav Shlomo Zalman, maybe if he didn't come up with this reason, then maybe he'd agree with, you know what I'm saying. So therefore, you always there's always the fundamental approach. When science and Torah collide, are they in harmony or are they colliding? In other words, if they're colliding, then one has to give. So you either have to throw out the halakha or throw out the science, one of the two. And Rav Dessler, no, the halakha is always staying. And we want them to be in harmony, but it's just a matter of figuring out the science at a time to keep us in harmony. As well as others will say, no, the science and Torah doesn't have to be in harmony, and you know, you're going to throw out the science, because the science that we'll see at best is only a suffix. It's constantly changing all the time, and etc. That's what we'll have to get into from Rav Yitzchak HaKohen Cook's, you know, viewpoint in that. And in terms of burial, in terms of burying on the first day, why maybe we have to wait 3 days, make sure the person's dead, like some suggestions. We'll have to see. As we know, we don't do that, but those and many other issues we'll have to discuss.